Good. So welcome to this. I think our fourth or fifth run of this session. We've been doing this studying as a mature student workshop since about March or early April, and an opportunity for those that may be considering coming to university, whether that's this September or actually maybe some people have just had a little bit of a light bulb moment and just want to find out a little bit more. We've put this session on specifically for you because we know that coming to university as a mature student is different, and you potentially are committing a lot more, or giving up a lot more, or just stuff around kind of finance and academic skills and just where you are in your lives, really, and your motivations for coming to university, I think will be hugely different to those of an 18-year-old student who are maybe just on a rite of passage, just a standard kind of done my GCSEs, done my A levels, and now that I'm 18, I'm going to go to university. And actually, we know with mature students, that rite of passage, that almost going to university as an 18-year-old done thing, it isn't the case, and actually coming at it from a completely different angle. What I also know from my work with mature students is that they tend to put up barriers in their own minds. They make assumptions about university. I will be the only mature student, or I may not academically be able to cope because I've been out of education for a while, and a lot of those things just aren't true, and I think we want to tackle some of those as well. Just to introduce myself, so my name's Paul Devlin. I am a student support officer at the university, and specifically in the university's Lifelong Learning Centre. I'll talk a little bit about the Lifelong Learning Centre. Basically, we're a home for mature students in the University of Leeds. So as well as supporting students on Lifelong Learning Centre degree programmes, I also have the remit to support mature students wherever they are across the university. Yes, so the main aims of the session, and hopefully these kind of chime with why people are here. As I said, I'm going to introduce the role of the Lifelong Learning Centre and specifically talk about how we support mature students. I'd like to explore some of the main reasons why a mature student might decide to come to university, and I think the reason that I'll do that is so that we can all see that we're largely all here for the same reasons. We'll have very different, very personal stories that have brought us here, but I think under all of those will be some very similar motivations. I think those myths and realities as well, those things that we assume about being a mature student, so some of them might be true. I just want to challenge some of those. I want to consider some of the similarities and differences between mature students and an 18-year-old student. We think as a mature student that we're going to be different somehow, and in many ways we are, but actually in many more ways we're probably similar. There is no typical University of Leeds or university student. Again, a mature student quite often can think of themselves as somehow being in deficit, not as good as everyone else because they're a mature student. And again, that couldn't be further from the, and we're going to challenge some of those assumptions as well. And then I'll just talk about some other areas of support and other things that you can read, and as well as bringing in some current mature students who can talk about their stories and their experiences. So Anna, Russell and Suma, just sit tight for now, and I shall bring you in where you'll be able to introduce yourselves. I mentioned the Lifelong Learning Centre at the University of Leeds, which is quite unique in the current university sector. So maybe over 10 years ago, most universities would have a Lifelong Learning Centre or a central focal point for mature students. That's become less of a thing now, and there's only a handful that's left that have that specific mature student focus, and the University of Leeds here is one of those. So the Lifelong Learning Centre does, and some of you may have already been in contact with us or had first-hand experience of the work that we do. We do two things. So the first thing we do is teach. We're a teaching school, just like other schools within the university. So the School of dentistry or healthcare or English or history, where they will all teach their own programs of study, their own degree programs. So does the Lifelong Learning Centre. The main difference with the Lifelong Learning Centre, I think, is that we're multidisciplinary. So rather than just teaching history or just teaching English courses, actually we have a broad range of subjects and topics that we think would be appropriate for mature students. So arts and humanities, science, business, a lot of vocational things like learning and teaching, child and family studies, professional studies, and at loads of different levels as well. So foundation year programs, maybe for people myself who, so I didn't do A levels. My highest qualification is GCSE. So we have foundation year, preparation year courses, and maybe preparation courses for people that have been out of education for as long as me. So yeah, 20 plus years, 25 years, I probably would need a preparation year before going on to my degree. We do part-time courses, evenings, weekends. Some courses are only 2-3 hours a week. We do full degrees, certificates in higher education, diplomas in higher education. The aim is really for any mature student who's thinking of coming to university that would think, well, I'd love to go to university, but I think we've removed those buts really. So, well, I work, well, that's okay. We have evening provision, or I have childcare, or I haven't got any A levels or GCSEs. We've provided courses that would still enable a mature student to come to university. As well as teaching, though, the university asks us to support mature students wherever they're studying across the university. So you don't just have to do Lifelong Learning Centre courses. You might want to go and study midwifery or English or fine art or anything really, and we'd encourage you to do that. And I would hope that you would feel completely supported anywhere in the university. And I would hope that you would feel as if you were around other mature students in other parts of the university. But equally, you may not. You may find that you are feeling a little bit isolated, or a lot of the support services are geared towards 18-year-old students, and that's where the Lifelong Learning Centre steps in as well. So we provide physical spaces, common room spaces, just places where you can use computer, just places where you can be around other mature students. We provide support services as well. So I think the University of Leeds is fantastic for providing things. Sorry, I went ahead there. For providing things like careers, academic skills, IT skills, well-being. There's loads of stuff happening on a daily basis that any student can participate in. But I think the kind of support that someone in their 30s or 40s or 50s might need around careers or academic skills, it is going to be different to that of an 18-year-old. Someone that's had a working life for the last 20 years doesn't really need advice on how to write a CV necessarily. Well, they may. So the Lifelong Learning Centre provides that mature student-focused support, careers, academic skills, finance, well-being, things that take into account your needs as a mature student. So whether you're studying with the Lifelong Learning Centre or not, you can access those. And then the fun stuff, really. We have lots of events for those of you that have got children or family members, a chance to bring them on campus to get their buy-in, because committing to university is a big thing, and you're not going to have as much time to do some of the family stuff that you were doing before. So you need their buy-in. So we do lots of fun stuff around kind of Christmas and Easter and film nights, and sometimes it's just getting together over a cup of coffee and some lunch events. We've been to the opera, we've been to the theatre as groups, and lots of personal and professional development workshops as well. So alongside your study, doing things that kind of enhance you both personally and professionally. That's about us, though. I want you to think for a moment about yourself. It would be helpful it would be helpful to know what you're thinking about studying. You might have a specific thing like, well, I want to do adult nursing, or actually it might be more vague where you're thinking, I just want to go into something health related. I want to know why you're wanting to study in that subject area. But the most important thing here is why now. So I've already talked about how I think that mature students are different in some way, that by thinking about going to university, you're asking the bigger questions of yourself, like, who am I? Where do I see myself in 5, 10 years' time? What kind of example do I want to be to my children? What kind of career do I want? And they're huge kind of questions. So this isn't just about learning. If it was about learning, then you would be maybe thinking about, I don't know, going to do a computer class at your local adult education centre, or learning beginners French, or this is about the bigger questions. So I can see people are typing them in the space, but if we like magic, if we see on screen, so along the top of the screen, you'll see some various icons. So you'll see like a select tool, a finger pointing upwards, a pencil. The one that you want is the T-text tool, and if you click on it, then click on the screen, it lets you type onto the screen as if by magic. You can see the word type there. So I'd like you to put those in there. If you're able to use that text tool, I'd like you to do so. And type in what you're thinking about studying, so we can see the range of things. And then in particular, why now? If you're not able to use that text tool, then pop something in the chat, and Jenny can transfer them over. Great. So some people are finding that, wow, so we're getting a nice range. So 2 people there on the same course, just back to front. One learning and teaching, teaching and learning, both the same course, childhood studies, business management, speech and language therapy, geology, nice. So yeah, the T along the top, the text tool, if you click on it, then cultural studies, occupational therapy, nice broad range. That's the easy question though, I guess. What are you studying? Why now? So I'm going to challenge the one that said I have my GCSEs. So I've got 2 GCSEs, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to university. Why university? I'm glad you've got your GCSEs, and well done, pat on the back. Just because you have GCSEs doesn't necessarily equate to wanting to go to university. Why university? Someone wants to progress at work. Some of them, my kids are getting older. Yeah, nice, I like that. Someone want to become a social worker at the top there. Kids are getting older, so it's time for me, be a role model to my daughter. You're going to love the next slide, because it's almost as if I've read your minds. My kids are getting, as a cover supervisor, higher level teaching assistant, I'm doing the role of a teacher for a lot less money. Let's move some of these about. Someone just wants to upgrade my knowledge and understanding for any purpose, or just for kind of learning's sake. That's fine. It doesn't have learning for learning's sake is fine. See Jenny just doing a little bit of housekeeping, making things a little bit easier to read. It's nice seeing some of these popping up on screen. We can almost see some people here for the same reason. Certainly there's a few around children. Certainly there's some around careers. Fine. Couple at the top. Someone's at a point in their life where they feel as if they've got something to give back to society. There's some really rich stuff here, isn't it? And it's interesting. I think if we ask this question of people who are 17 currently doing their A-levels, why they're going to university, I don't think we would get anywhere near as rich and vibrant. So some reasons behind that, because university is just the done thing for a lot of people. That rite of passage, but here we've got some really deeper and kind of richer stories and motivations. Fine. I'm going to move on to the next slide. If you haven't put your things in there and still want to, please do use the chat facility. But if by magic, I've done a bit of mind reading here. Someone's put there, you use my knowledge to help and apply it in work. Absolutely, absolutely. I think you can summarize all of those things, or most of those things, in one one of these four reasons. I think in my 7 years of having spoken to people considering coming to university, you can tend to put them, all of their individual stories, into one of these boxes, and I wonder if these chime with people. So career one, I'm doing something that I hate, actually. Do I really want to be stuck doing this for the rest of my life? Do I really see myself doing this forever? No. So I need to go to university, or I want to go to university just to retrain and get a new skill, get a new qualification. I think on the flip side, and we had this on the previous slide, some people are doing a job that they quite like doing in an area that they particularly like, but they can't get any further, or they're not getting paid as much as they would like to be paid because they don't have the qualification. Did we have the teaching assistant on the previous slide talking around that? They're doing something they like, but they can't get any further. Our children are a big motivator for mature students. Well, my children are old enough now, so I'm able to go to university. I'm able to do something for myself because either they're in school or nursery, or they're 18, or so I'm able to focus a little bit more on myself. But equally, I think with the children thing, there's also that thing about wanting to be a role model for your own children when they're older. Seeing university as something that they can do for themselves. The other one's like a miserable one. Well, it's not too miserable. This idea, I used to call it the divorce, but that major life event thing, it could be divorce, it could be bereavement, redundancy, a global pandemic, just that thing that makes you absolutely just stop in your tracks and think, wow, what am I doing? What do I need to be doing with my life here? This is a crossroads now, and I need to be really rethinking the path that I'm on. And for me, a lot of the stuff that we were writing on that previous slide, is that chiming with people? Can people give me just like a yes or a comment just in the chat facility, just to let me know whether I'm going off piste there, or if they're not chiming with people there? Absolutely. Someone just saying that you're not alone, and I can relate to all of them. And I think the reason I like doing that exercise in asking you why you're coming to university, then me almost telling you, look, these are the four main reasons, it is exactly that, to make you realize you're not alone. So everyone in this space now is coming at it from very different perspectives and very different life journeys, but actually we're probably all in it for the same reasons, largely speaking. Yeah, children and kind of the life event. Let's do a bit of myth busting then. So it's quiz time. I do love a quiz, as the current students in this room will attest to. Let's bust some myths. So in the chat room, I'm going to go question by question. Let's do this as a quiz. Now, there is no prizes, so please don't get competitive. Question number one then in the chat room. What age is the university definition of a mature undergraduate student? So someone doing a degree, how would we define them as a mature student? So lots of 21s, 20 and above, 24. Any takers on that? 26, nice and random. So big pat on the back. Well, Anna, who's a current mature student, has got that correct with 21, and Russell, who is also a current mature student, has got that wrong with 24. The answer is 21, which sounds a bit odd when we're saying mature, because I think if I cast my mind back to when I was 21, I was anything but mature, actually. I cringe thinking about it. And while the university, I think, does technically class mature students as being 21 or over when they start the degree program, actually, in my experience as a student support officer, I think it's probably more likely that they'll be in their 30s, 40s, 50s. That would be the bulk. Someone got married at 21. You were a lot more mature than me, let me put it that way. Yeah, most mature students would be 30 to 50. We would have a significant amount of mature students who are retired, who then want to learn for pleasure. Our oldest student is 76. So yeah, technically it's 21, but generally speaking, I would say it's kind of 30 plus. How many mature students do you think we have at University of Leeds, again in the chat facility? So how many mature students do we think that there are? Michelle's gone big, she's gone 3,000. So I'll give you a clue that we have 10,000 students. So we have 10,000 undergraduate students. So how many of those are mature students? I mean, our entire population is 42,500. We're half the size of Scarborough. So we are huge. Well, give yourselves a pat on the back if you said kind of around 3,000, around 30%. So about 30% of students at University of Leeds would be mature. And it's really interesting that because it challenges that myth that I'll be the oldest one at university. Everyone will be staring at me in my lectures. There'll be no one else like me. I've asked people that question face to face at open days. How many mature students do you think we've got? And some people have said 10, 100. They genuinely think that they're going to be the oldest person there. And the fact of the matter is that you're in a significant minority, 3,500 mature students. Now at open days and welcome events, you're going to see a lot of 18-year-old students. At some of the open days, all you can see is 18-year-old students being dragged around the university campus by their parent or parents or family members, and you will feel old, but you're certainly not alone. Question number 3, a yes or no. Has there been an increase in mature students over the last 10 years? Well, it's interesting, and I said this when we last ran the session, that I've almost forgotten the answer to this question. I didn't write the answers down. There's been an increase in mature students over the last 10 years. Everyone's kind of put yes. I'm going to suggest that the answer to that is no. I think that there's been a steady decline. I think that I think there's been a steady decline for a number of reasons, and I think the increasing of tuition fees, I think, was an issue for a lot of mature students. I think some issues around part-time study as well. So there's been a dramatic decline in part-time students, and therefore part-time courses that are available. And for a lot of mature students, they haven't been able to access those part-time courses or have had worries about finance. So I think that there's been a decline. So it's why the University of Leeds are doing some really good work actually, and still having a lifelong learning centre and still really committed to supporting mature students. I think we're an excellent example of good practice across the sector. Well, if we think about mature students, then do we think that they're more part-time mature students at Leeds than full-time? Yes or no? So there are more part-time mature students at Leeds than full-time. I think that's the assumption, isn't it? The assumption is that because mature students have got other commitments, and maybe work and children or mortgages and things, that they'll all study part-time, and it's false. The majority of mature students at University of Leeds study full-time. Actually, if we say we've got about 3,500 mature students, it's probably only about 400 of them would be studying part-time. So about 3,000 would be studying full-time. So again, I think that challenges this assumption, well, because I'm a mature student or because I have commitments, I could only study part-time, and it just isn't true. And again, I think people think to themselves, I wouldn't be able to afford to study full-time. And again, it's just not true because we've got 3,000 mature students doing it. Do most mature students already have degrees? So did they already study at university maybe when they were 18, or? Lots of no's so far. Yeah, you're completely right. They don't. We have some that maybe went to university when they were 18, just picked a course that they thought might bode them well for the rest of their lives. Actually, it didn't go too well, or they chose the wrong course, and then later in life they want to retrain. But the majority of mature students at university don't already have degrees. They're people like me. I haven't been to university for various reasons. You know, people, well, we've already saw, yeah, I mean, some people were married and had families, and I started working at the age of 18, and I just never went to university. So you're right, most mature students don't already have degrees. Again, in the chat room, mature students only study vocational subjects. Yes or no? It's an interesting one, the way kind of the question's framed here. Of course, a mature student can study anything that you want at university, and students can do. Mature students do study a broad range of things. The fact of the matter is, though, if we look statistically, the majority of mature students are studying on vocational subjects, and it almost chimes back to that thing about why are you studying at university? Remember, we were looking at that career 1 and career 2. The majority of mature students are coming here because they either are doing a job that they hate and don't want to be doing it for the rest of their lives, or doing a job that they love and they want to progress further. That makes up the bulk of mature students. So actually, it isn't that they only study vocational subjects, but actually the vast majority do. That isn't to limit anyone at all. As I say, we certainly have a large group of students that are studying non-vocational subjects, but yeah, the majority do. This one's a slightly different question, just because I think it's an interesting point to make. What percentage do we think of mature students have a disability or a long-term medical condition? So that could include mental health conditions, or could include things like dyslexia or physical disabilities or long-term medical conditions. There's really varied responses on that one. There's no kind of consensus. So statistically, just generally, if we were looking at the university population as a whole, the figure would be 10% of students would have a disability or long-term medical condition. If we look statistically just at mature students, that figure is about 20%. So it's double what it would be a standard age student. And I think there's various reasons for that. We're older. We've maybe just got more things going on. My knee's sore, and I've just got health stuff going on that I didn't when I was 18. There's certainly stuff around dyslexia. We find in a lot of cases there's reasons why maybe someone didn't have a good experience of school when they were younger. And maybe that is down to dyslexia as well. The reason that I mentioned that as well, and certainly the stuff around kind of mental health and well-being and physical disabilities and dyslexia, is that 20% of mature students are coming to university with one of those conditions, and the university is well versed in supporting them. The question that I get asked over and over again is, but I have a mental health condition, will I still be able to do this? Or I have dyslexia, will I still be able to do this? The university are very well supporting mature students, and knowing that mature students are bringing just stuff to the table, life to the table, children, families, health stuff. So please don't be sat there thinking, I'd like to go to university, but I can't. Someone's put there around PTSD. Absolutely not. I mean, we have a number of students with certainly PTSD, and anyone with mental health conditions. The university support that we have for any student. The thing for university about me, it's very individualized. So this isn't about school and us treating this kind of unnamed mass of students and just hoping that everyone passes. This is about you and your journey. This is us looking at you, thinking, what do you need in order to help you to succeed? And that will vary from person to person. Some people might need assistance around post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people might need help with mobility stuff. Some people might need extra time in exams. Some people might need things printed on yellow paper. The key thing is that the university will help you regardless. We'll have an individual conversation with you to figure out what support that you might need. So it's absolutely not a problem at all. Fine. So again, using the T-text tool along the top, Let's have a little think then. Let's get cards on the table, really. Like, what are the similarities and what are the differences? I think we quite often focus on how we would be different at university as a mature student. We very rarely focus on the similarities. Let's focus on both here. So using that text tool along the top, if you're able, if you're not in the chat facility and Jenny can move them over. What are the similarities and differences between a mature student and a standard age student? Yeah, so they're starting to come in. So a mature student might have extra responsibilities. Yeah, I like that. Everyone's there to learn. Everyone's there to get the qualification. Everyone's got a commitment to study, some more than others in some cases. But yeah, everyone's there to study and everyone's there to better themselves, either academically or professionally. I suppose everyone at university's chosen the course because they have an interest in potentially working in that field. So whether you're 50 or whether you're 18, you're choosing your subject based on your professional interest. I agree. Learning something new, I think you're right. And I think that there's something nice there around mature students. I just think to myself that there can be large phases in my life. Certainly I can go months, if not longer, years really, where I'm not exercising my brain, I'm not learning. And I think university provides that opportunity, particularly for mature students who've maybe found themselves in a bit of a rut. I love that one that's just put up there about young and old are learning from each other. There's a really nice piece of research, oddly enough, that the Scouts Association did, that I read a number of years ago. And this idea of intergenerational learning. So if you teach 12-year-olds in a room full of 12-year-olds, they'll learn. And if you do 80-year-olds in a room full of 80-year-olds, they'll learn. But if you teach a group of 12-year-olds in the same room as a group of 80-year-olds, everyone in the room just learns more. And I think the same thing happens at university, actually, that intergenerational learning, where you're bringing your skills and the young person's bringing their kind of perspective and skills as well. It's absolutely magic to see at university. Socializing as well, absolutely. University is, well, currently university's closed, but university is a very social place. As I say, we have 42,500 people from 180 countries, from the age of 18 all the way up to 76, from every political kind of leaning and social class. It's a great place to socialize. But there are differences. There's more of a burden. The stakes are higher. You've invested more into this, so maybe you feel more responsible. Whereas when you're 18, maybe you can be a little bit more transient. You've got more experience and focus in your life. I couldn't agree more. This idea that that somehow you're in deficit because you're a mature student and maybe you've been out of education for a while is just not the case. Okay, so an 18-year-old has been more practiced in being in a classroom environment, but then not bringing kind of the communication skills, the resilience, the time management, all of those kind of rich things that you're bringing just from your life. Those abilities. This one here, and so the young presume the older lot know everything, and the older presume the young know everything. And the key word for there is these presumptions, these perceived barriers. I couldn't agree more. Whenever I do student support, the young students come to me like really kind of worried, but the mature students think all the young students are really confident, and vice versa. And I think these are all bringing different skills, but you have got extra responsibilities usually. I think you have got better time management. Actually, there's nothing the university could teach a parent about time management. I mean, you know that stuff inside out. Far more life experience. Standard age students have more time to change their minds. Yeah, they've got the life ahead of them. I'm sure you all have as well. But as I say, the stakes are higher for you. You've got to make different choices now, or you give more thought to your choices now, and the investment that you're making is larger. A better understanding of what you want in life experience, some really kind of nice things there. And what I like about that exercise is that there isn't really anything there that's negative. When we look at the differences between us and a standard 8 student, there's nothing there that is showing us in deficit. We're bringing things to the table there. I've invested more in this. I have more experience. My age and my abilities have brought more to the table. I've got more life experience, better understanding. There is stuff around maybe having kind of extra responsibilities and just less time. We have less time, but there's some really nice things there. And then the reasons why we're all in this together, actually the mature students and standard 8 students are there for a lot of the same reasons. Nice. Someone's just popped up there. I've always struggled in social situations. I'm exactly the same. I find it quite uncomfortable. What I like about the university is that it creates comfortable spaces. It creates opportunities for you to be able to socialize if you want to in a safe and comfortable way. And equally, we have students that just come to university, sit in the classroom, and then go home at the end of the day because that's what they feel most comfortable with. Yeah, mature students are less likely to immerse themselves in extracurricular opportunities. Not always, but yeah, they're time poor in a lot of cases. But it's about maybe immersing themselves, not necessarily in the same way as an 18-year-old, but more strategically and doing some more kind of focused things. This idea that all of that extracurricular stuff is just for an 18-year-old is nonsense, and the current students will talk about that a little bit more. And moving on, and now I don't have a picture of Anna, unfortunately, so we won't see Anna's face, but we do have Russell and Suma. And I just wanted to hand over to you, and we'll probably go in order of Russell, Suma, and then Anna, just to get your slant on being a mature student, that journey into university, how you found it, and some of the things maybe we've touched on. Russell, are you happy to chip in first with your thoughts?
Yeah, if I can get my breath back, that nearly gave me an heart attack when that came up. Wasn't expecting that. Hello everyone, my name's Russell, if you haven't figured that out already. I'm a second year professional studies student. I wanted to focus a bit on something Paul said earlier about barriers. Been thinking a lot about it. Biggest thing I struggled with as a mature student, especially coming into university, was confidence. A lot of what we've said, I didn't feel like I belonged there. I felt an outcast. You know, I'm stupid. I'm not same as these A-level students. Within a month, I figured out how rubbish that were. Some of the discussions I've had in my class with my classmates have been some of the most interesting discussions I've ever had. They're some of the smartest people I've ever met, without a doubt. One of the biggest barriers you face is just that belief in yourself. You know, it's just finding your place and finding that you belong, and only you can make that step. So just everything else is secondary to that. That is the key thing. Just believe in yourself. You have every right to belong to university and to the LLC than anybody else does. That's it. Just believe in yourself.
Nice, thank you, Russell. Suma.
Hello, hi. As for me, I think I go back to, I kind of want to be a role model for my two daughters as well. And I went back to study because, I want to do something. But before all that, I honestly did not think I would be at university at my age. That picture that picture is too young of me. I am way older than that now. But I found that I had dyslexia through university. I realized that that's why I didn't do any education in the past. And I always used to think that I'm not smart. I'm, like Russell said, I'm stupid, and I'm not going to get anywhere with this. But I was so lucky. I decided to go back to work after my daughters were in school, and I couldn't find a job. Nobody would employ me. I had no references, and I met Fiona, who does Jumpstart. I met her, and the door was just open, and I cannot. I don't know. It is in a way a privilege to be walking into Leeds University and studying. It just, I just can't find the word to explain how I feel. However, it's a lot of work. It's hard work, but we find the way to manage time and to get the work done in time. There's a lot of support. If you don't get your assignments done in time, you can always apply for extension. And if you're running out of resources, there's always someone there to guide you and say, right, okay, maybe you're looking at the wrong place. There is a lot of help out there. And I just wish everybody good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Suma. I think one of those assumptions there that you both touched on is that I'm not going to be academically capable. And I think mature students considering coming to university can really overthink that and just assume that they have to be fully ready as soon as they walk in the doors, and forgetting that university is an incremental journey. It's like learning piano. If you were to learn a musical instrument like piano at your very first lesson, you're just going to be pushing the keys with one finger. And it's going to take you a while to get the confidence maybe to even play with both hands or even two fingers. Really, it's going to be that gradual thing, but your teacher will help and support you and provide you with music that will build on your skills. And I think university is exactly the same, where no one's expecting you to come into the university fully cooked, ready to go. No one's expecting you to be an academic. We teach you the subject, but we also teach you how to be a student as well, because I think it is a skill. Thank you both. Anna.
Hi everybody. Yeah, I like that, Paul. I totally agree. And I agree with Russell and Suma as well. I just think if you've got this far that you're interested, then all I would say is go for it. And it is like Paul just said, sort of like learning the piano. You learn it in steps. It's not something you're expected to just know straight away. So as for me, I did okay at school. I didn't particularly like it, but it was okay. And then I just sort of flitted from job to job, not really knowing where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And I always felt like I couldn't learn. It was something I just wasn't capable of. I just didn't have that sort of brain. But when I had my daughter, I think like somebody mentioned before, I wanted to be that role model for her and for her doing her studies as well, to be an inspiration. So when she was 2, I went to college and did a free maths and English course, and it just progressed from there. I've been in education for the past 7 years now, for somebody that thought they couldn't learn anything. So I already had my English GCSE, and I finally got my maths GCSE at the level I needed for uni. I did the summer school 3 years ago. And on the first day, I wasn't really sure, I'll be honest. And on the second day, I sort of got a bit more into it. And by the third day, we'd had a taster of what was on offer at uni. So that I sort of thought, I think this might be for me now. And then all of a sudden, I was starting in September, and the same things that you've all mentioned, thinking, what am I doing here? I can't do this, I can't do that. But yeah, I've just finished 3 years. I've just finished my dissertation, so I did get there whilst juggling, obviously, home life and my daughter going to school. I did this full time as well, and you just manage your time. That's all you can do. And it's been an absolute experience. I can't believe 3 years has gone. It goes really fast, really fast. And also, sort of halfway through my first year, I discovered I'm dyspraxic. And I had always wondered, but I'd never had a test. So that was good to know, because you get specialist support then, and you can you learn how. Well, I learned how to learn, because I learn in a different way, which was a massive help. And it also helped with assignments, or anything that I did. I sort of had a different way to look at things. Whereas when I was at school, I was always told that was wrong, because you had to do it one way. When I did my uni work, it was actually a benefit. So yeah, Suma said it is hard work, but I think this might be a little bit sad to say, but you sort of get you get so involved in it that you want to do it. So you find yourself, maybe on a Saturday or something that you wouldn't normally do. So you want to go and do it. You want to read that thing, for your assignment, or just make some notes, or just do something quick that will help with what you're doing. And I too, I don't like speaking publicly, and I struggle in social situations, and I was a nervous wreck when I first started. But it teaches you how to deal with all those things, and honestly, by even your first year, you're so much more confident. I think if people have told you at school or at home or your friends that you can't do something, eventually when you realise that you can, that confidence starts to come and you start to believe in yourself. So I hope you all go for it and do well.
Yeah, nice. Thank you all three. That kind of sums up everything more than I could have, having not been to university. Someone puts. I was just distracted there by something in the chat room there. So someone said, I've submitted my application for my student loan, and I've just got this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, thinking, am I really doing this at my age? I'm going to hand back to the students in a second, but the other thing that I would say there as well is, what's the worst thing that could happen here? So the very worst thing that can happen for me is that you start university in September, you decide that you've made the biggest mistake of your life, absolutely hate it, and you no longer want to be a university student. We then say, that's absolutely fine, we're sorry to see you go, and you return to how things were in the past. That's the worst thing that could happen here. The very best thing that could happen, however, is it has a fundamentally transformative take on your entire life, that your life changes as a result of doing this. There is no in between there for me. It's going to be one of those two. Current students, did you have the same kind of things at the beginning? Like, am I really doing this? Anna?
Well, obviously, I'm 21, really, but I am actually 39 now. And although I wasn't the oldest and I wasn't the youngest, I still thought when I started, I'm too old. I've missed the boat, sort of thing. I'm not going to be able to do this at my age. But I think what you bring with your age is your knowledge and your life experience, and whatever you decide to do when you go. Because I said to my dad, who bless him, took me to uni and back, he took me to school. I said, why didn't I do this when I was 18? He said, because you didn't know then what you know now. So what you know now helped you with your studies, because I do think I would have struggled. I didn't have the same knowledge and experience. So I think you could do it at any age. And we've had people, I think there was somebody in the 70s. So any age, I would say, go for it.
Russell?
Completely agree with Anna there. I remember when I did my first student finance, I was sick to my stomach for a week afterwards, thinking, am I really doing this? And I was sort of half excited, half terrified. And it wasn't until when I first walked onto campus, when I walked into induction, and I was looking around at all these beautiful buildings, and I thought, what am I doing here? I don't fit here at all. And it wasn't until I sat down for my first lesson and I put my hand up to answer a question, and my lecturer, nice woman named Catherine, went, that's a good point. That's a good point, that. Well done. I thought, oh, I have something to fit in here. And it just builds after that. So nerves are completely normal. You know, they're completely natural in these situations. It'd be odd probably if you didn't feel nervous. So just trust in why you want to go to university and just try and enjoy the experience if you can. Thank you.
Suma.
Oh, for me, when I first started, I thought there's no way I'm going to get in. When I did Jumpstart, I didn't think I was going to get in because my nationality is Australian. However, I do have permanent residence. And I think Paul will agree with me. He's helped me a lot. So I did not even think I would get in. I used to walk in every day thinking they're going to send me a letter saying, out you go. But I can't believe that it went smoothly and I'm here, and you find a way to get over that hurdle. There's always hurdles, but you find your way, you get over it, and then you develop the confidence and you move on. The confidence comes. When I started at Jumpstart, I was like Russell, I hardly said a word. I never said anything. And I remember doing a piece of writing for Fiona because I thought my English is my second language. So that didn't help. And she replied saying, oh, you've got good ideas. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm not that dumb after all. You know, so if I can do it, you can all do it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Anna, a quick one, because I am conscious of time. Do you want to chip in there?
I was just going to say you get support from your peers and obviously your tutors, and maybe when you're at home, family and friends. So that support keeps you going throughout.
Perfect.
Mute, Paul.
Sorry, thank you. My slide doesn't seem to be wanting to move there. Yes. Jenny, I wonder if you might be better just taking through some of the other things that they might want to get involved in. I saw you talking in the chat. We've mentioned things like Jumpstart. We've mentioned the guidance service. I know there is other case studies and stuff, and you're directly involved in those things. Do you want to take over and just let people know what they could be doing next?
Hi, yes. So I hope you've all found it useful. There's some really nice questions in the chat, and I'm trying to get in back with all of you and answer them for you. But I have just put a link in the chat to how you can book a guidance appointment. And so if you feel like you've got any questions that are unanswered and you're unsure of anything, need any help with personal statements, anything like that, advice how to make your application stronger, so Amy for your midwifery course, you know, things like that, please do get in touch with our guidance officer. You can book an appointment using that link or call that mobile number. Just to let you know, the person who mans that phone number is actually off today, so if you do it next week, he will get back to you. So we have that guidance service. We've also got a return to study Facebook group. So I will put that link in the chat in a second. That's a great place to, again, a lot of our learning champions who've very kindly been here today are also on that, so you can ask them questions on there. So this isn't just a one-time thing. We also have loads of sessions next week that are running. We've got a business one on Monday, a professional studies one on Tuesday, a learning and teaching one on Wednesday, and a PHE, so preparation for higher education one on Thursday, and also a getting into uni session. So that's also a really good place to ask for advice on personal statements and how to get into university. So yes, we've got a busy week next week, so you can book on to those events. I'll just put the link in the chat now, so you can book onto those here if you haven't already. If you're on the summer school, then you can automatically just attend those events and you should get reminders about those. And I think that's it really. Yeah, we've got the YouTube channel as well, which I put earlier in the chat, but if you just Google Lifelong Learning Centre Leeds University YouTube, all our online session recordings are on there, and there's also some really nice videos from our current students. So again, that's another way of listening to our students at the moment. So Paul, Sean, you don't know question.
Well, there was just something that came in there around someone saying actually they feel a bit apprehensive about being a mature student who's also studying part-time and wanting to immerse myself in uni life, but being limited. Are there any future events regarding part-time students? There may be some subject-specific taster sessions and things like that. The one thing that I would say is, certainly in the quiz where we talked about how a significant majority of mature students are full-time, we have 400, 500 part-time students, and they have different commitments. So they may be working full-time, so only come onto campus once a week. So they're not taking part in as much as an 18-year-old, a mature student who's studying full-time. The one thing that I always say to part-time students, however, because if you think about it, if a full-time student is with us for 3 years, a part-time student potentially is going to be with the university for 5 years, 6 years, and a lot of the events and activities that the Lifelong Learning Centre put on are specifically aimed at part-time students and those with other commitments as well. So you'll find things are just timed right so that you are able to participate. But we acknowledge that you're not going to be able to participate as much as you might want to. But I always say, if at the end of that 5 or 6 years, the only thing you've done is rock up to class and then go home, then you've really missed a trick, because university is an incredible place where you will be able to participate in those things, whether you're here for 3 hours a week or whether you're here for 30 hours a week, really. So don't feel daunted by being a part-time student, because that isn't a barrier to you. The only time that you can participate in the wider stuff around the university isn't when you're on campus. Our university campus is open 7 days a week in a normal world. And we have students coming in at evenings and weekends, and there's galleries and family events and theatre events, and so please don't let that put you off. Yeah, and I think some more specific questions coming in there around not really being sure what individual requirements are and things like that. So I'll just refer people back to what Jenny was saying around getting yourself booked in for a guidance appointment, and they can help one-to-one and really help you unpicking your personal circumstances. But for now, unless there's any final questions that people want to ask more generally around studying as a mature student, less around their specific circumstances, unless there's anything final, then just to thank people really for joining us, and to thank Anna, Russell, and Suma in particular. Jenny.
Hi, yeah, guys, I'm just going to pop an evaluation form in the chat. I would really appreciate it if you could fill this in before you leave the session. Just click it open and maybe open it in another window. We really, again, this has been a really new experience for us running these sessions, so it's really valuable sort of hearing what you think of the sessions and how we can improve them. So I'd be very grateful if you could fill that in.